Have you ever thought about disappearing? Not in the sense of running away for vacation or escaping an awkward situation, but truly vanishing from the world, leaving no trace behind? Imagine starting fresh with a new identity, free from the past, free from your mistakes, and free from all the pressures that weigh you down. Is it even possible? What would it take for you to disappear? And more importantly, why would you want to? Let's explore the art of disappearing, the motivations behind it, and the steps it would require if you dare to try. Disappearing, in its simplest form, means vanishing without leaving any trace, whether it's from the eyes of society, our personal relationships, or the responsibilities that we might feel bound to. For some, the idea of disappearing isn't just about escaping physical presence, but rather about breaking free from the emotional, mental, or societal burdens that weigh them down. It's the fantasy of shedding one's past, starting anew, and gaining freedom from whatever forces feel oppressive. But what does it truly mean to disappear? Is it the complete severing of all ties, both physically and emotionally? Is it a reaction to a life we feel trapped in, or is it the allure of the unknown, where the person who disappears is no longer defined by their history, but instead by their new journey? For some, the appeal of disappearing lies in the idea of freedom. Freedom from debt, from toxic relationships, or from the weight of personal trauma. It's the idea of starting fresh, where no one knows your story and you're no longer defined by your mistakes or failures. But does freedom truly exist in this sense? Or is the very act of disappearing an attempt to escape from ourselves rather than the world? People may also feel the need to disappear because they believe they're running away from something they cannot confront, whether it's their own past, the expectations of others, or the societal pressures they face. It's not necessarily an act of cowardice, but rather one of survival trying to protect oneself from mental or emotional destruction. But let's ask the deeper question. Why do people seek to disappear? Is it because they feel unheard, unseen, or trapped? Or is it because the idea of starting fresh is simply too enticing? The truth lies somewhere in between, and it often stems from a place of inner conflict. The notion of disappearing is far from a new concept. Throughout history, there have been countless cases of individuals who chose to disappear for various reasons. Some disappeared to escape the law, while others sought refuge from personal turmoil or the weight of their own fame. Take, for example, the famous case of John Dillinger, a notorious American bank robber during the Great Depression. Dillinger was one of the most infamous criminals of his time, and his ability to evade law enforcement for an extended period of time made his disappearance a legendary story. He was a man who used fake identities, altered his appearance, and used cunning strategies to remain free while the law chased him relentlessly. His ability to vanish, even with the law hot on his heels, made him a symbol of resistance to the system. Another historical example involves an individual involved in a notorious crime whose identity remained hidden for years. The case captured public attention, with theories and speculation about their fate running wild. What fascinated people most was the idea of someone being able to vanish so completely that no one could trace them, leaving behind nothing but rumors and mystery. On a more personal level, some individuals throughout history have chosen to disappear to escape personal tragedies. These people weren't necessarily criminals, but were simply ordinary individuals who felt the weight of their past, the tragedy of loss, or the shame of failure so deeply that they felt the only way to survive was to abandon everything they knew. There are accounts of survivors of wars, natural disasters, and abuse who decided to vanish, not as an act of running away, but as a way of protecting their mental health. In all of these cases, the common thread is a desire for freedom from a life they could no longer bear, whether it was oppressive society, a personal mistake, or a past full of shame and regret. These historical disappearances have left us with questions. What drove these people to vanish? And more importantly, how do we understand their motivations in a way that makes sense to us in the present day? Modern day realities. Can you really disappear? In the age of technology, disappearing has become more complicated than ever. We live in an era where nearly every action we take leaves a digital footprint, making it far more difficult to truly vanish. Social media, tracking technology, and public records have created a world where our identities are no longer only linked to our names and faces, but also to the digital trails we leave behind. Platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn allow us to connect with people and share our lives. But these very platforms also serve as a record of who we are, what we do, and who we know. Even if someone deletes their accounts, traces of their existence can remain in the digital ether. Photos, conversations, and interactions can resurface at any time, making it nearly impossible to completely wipe away one's past. Tracking technology, GPS, smartphones, and even facial recognition technology make it hard for anyone to remain fully anonymous. Our phones track our movements, store our conversations, and share our location in real time. In some countries, governments and corporations use facial recognition systems to monitor public spaces, which means that if you're ever caught on camera, there's a high likelihood that your identity can be discerned within seconds. Even something as simple as buying coffee with a credit card or using your debit card for gas creates a digital trail. In the modern world, records of births, deaths, marriages, and legal filings are easily accessible to anyone with the right access. From social security numbers to tax filings, these public documents make it difficult for someone to truly disappear without leaving any trace. How can you start over when your old life is forever archived in databases, available for anyone to look up? So, can you really disappear in today's world? The answer is complex. While it's technically possible for someone to leave behind their old life and live off the grid, the digital age has made it increasingly difficult to do so without constant surveillance or a sophisticated strategy to erase every trace of your existence. The most plausible way to disappear today may involve evading physical identification, such as using cash or going into hiding in remote areas. But the digital footprint remains a significant barrier. Is there a way to disappear completely? As we've seen in both historical and modern contexts, true disappearance requires more than just fleeing your physical surroundings. It involves erasing your digital identity, severing your personal connections, and becoming entirely self-reliant. But even then, the chances of someone being able to disappear without ever being found again are slim. New technologies, especially data analysis and artificial intelligence, are making it more likely that even the most careful vanishing acts will eventually be uncovered. In a world so interconnected, the concept of disappearing is both alluring and daunting. Historically, it has been an act of liberation or survival, driven by a need to escape personal or societal pressures. But in the digital age, disappearing has become more challenging, and the idea of truly vanishing may just be a fantasy we can never fully realize. So, the next time you ask yourself, what would it take to disappear? Consider this. The real question is not just how to disappear, but whether the act of disappearing can ever truly free you from the chains you're trying to escape. When we consider the concept of disappearing, it often raises more questions than answers. People who contemplate this idea may not just be looking for an escape. They might be seeking something deeper. The psychological motivations behind the urge to disappear can vary greatly, but they generally stem from a need for change, a desire to rid oneself of burdens, or even a yearning for freedom. Let's explore some of the key reasons why people might feel the need to vanish, and what drives them towards such a decision. One of the most common psychological motivations for wanting to disappear is the need for a fresh start. Life can often weigh heavily on an individual, whether due to trauma, unmanageable debt, toxic relationships, or feeling trapped by societal expectations. The thought of starting over can seem like a way to free oneself from the chains of their past. For some, the idea of a clean slate is immensely appealing. Trauma, especially unresolved emotional or psychological pain, can create a deep longing to escape. When someone has been hurt, whether emotionally or physically by the people around them or by life circumstances, the pain may feel unbearable. The thought of disappearing can seem like the only option to remove themselves from constant reminders of that hurt. By leaving behind familiar places, people, and memories, they may hope to find solace in a new environment, one where they are not constantly reminded of past pain. A person who has experienced the loss of a loved one may feel that the weight of grief is too much to bear in their mind. Disappearing might provide an opportunity to escape the overwhelming sadness, allowing them to build a new life free from the shadow of that loss. For some, their past might feel like a prison of history filled with bad decisions, mistakes, or regrets. They may feel trapped by the person they were, unable to see a way out. The desire to disappear becomes not just a desire for escape, but a need for rebirth to start anew. where they're not defined by past actions, choices, or experiences. A person who has been caught in a cycle of addiction might feel that they have exhausted every opportunity for recovery. The idea of disappearing and shedding their old identity might seem like a path to healing, where they are no longer burdened by the mistakes of their past. Another psychological motivator that pushes individuals to disappear is a desire for anonymity. In today's hyperconnected world, privacy has become a rare commodity. Many people are constantly observed by their social media presence, the information they share online, or even the mere fact that we leave digital footprints everywhere we go. Anonymity offers a sense of freedom. The idea of not being watched, judged, or observed allows for a sense of control over one's life. For someone who's been under constant surveillance, whether by family, the public, or society in general, the prospect of disappearing can seem like the ultimate way to regain control over their personal identity and actions. It's the freedom to live without worrying about being scrutinized. A celebrity who has faced public criticism or harassment might feel a desperate need for anonymity. The idea of disappearing gives them a sense of escape from the constant pressure to conform to public expectations and demands. Anonymity doesn't necessarily mean hiding from a law or running from responsibility. For some, it's simply a desire for peace and quiet away from the prying eyes of the world. The pressures of modern society, where everyone is constantly exposed and connected, can make privacy feel like a rare luxury. For introverts or those who simply feel overwhelmed by social obligations, the urge to disappear might stem from a yearning to be left alone. A person who has been involved in social or professional circles where they constantly have to put on a facade or live up to others' expectations might crave the freedom of disappearing into obscurity. The idea of living life without the burden of maintaining appearances can be very appealing. While the motivations for disappearing are clear, the question that arises is whether the act of vanishing would truly bring peace, or if it would simply trade one set of problems for another. This is the central dilemma that many people face when considering such a drastic step. False sense of peace. While disappearing may seem like the solution to the chaos of life, it's important to recognize that peace isn't necessarily found in physical isolation or changing one's identity. The internal struggles, trauma, regrets, emotional baggage don't simply disappear because a person changes their location or starts fresh. There's often a sense that these issues are waiting to catch up, and they might manifest in new ways once a person disappears. Consider someone who disappears to escape a toxic relationship. While the immediate relief might feel comforting, the deeper emotional wounds from that relationship may persist, resurfacing in the form of loneliness, depression, or difficulty trusting others. Escaping problems only to face new ones. Disappearing can also be a temporary solution to a problem that can't be truly fixed by distance. The sense of escape may be short-lived, as new challenges, loneliness, fear being found, adjusting to a new identity can take their toll. For someone running from debt, the financial strain might still haunt them in new forms. Or for someone fleeing trauma, the need for healing might become even more urgent when they're isolated. A person who has escaped from financial ruin by disappearing might find themselves living in constant fear of being discovered. Instead of freedom, they may face paranoia and the pressure of staying hidden for fear of legal repercussions. The desire to disappear, while rooted in understandable motivations, raises critical questions about whether true peace and healing can be found by physically running away. For many, the psychological and emotional work needed to face the past, heal, and rebuild must be done internally. No amount of disappearing can solve these deeper issues. It's important to ask yourself, what would you really be running from? And what might you be running into? The true peace may not lie in disappearance, but in finding a way to confront and transform the challenges that drive us to seek escape. How to actually disappear. In some cases, people who wish to disappear may approach specialized forgers or use specific methods to evade detection. But even these methods are fraught with difficulties. The cost of acquiring fake documents, the need for secrecy, and the risk of exposure make it a dangerous endeavor. As technology advances, tracking and verifying identities are becoming more accurate, meaning that the creation of fake documents is becoming harder to pull off successfully. Would you be able to live with the guilt of creating a new identity to escape from your past? How much of your true self would you have to give up in order to live as someone else? Living off the grid and managing money without leaving a trail is crucial when disappearing. Financial independence is a key factor, as maintaining an anonymous and trace-free existence requires avoiding traditional financial systems, which are all connected to personal identification. Some people may opt for offshore banking in countries that have stricter privacy laws. This allows them to keep their funds out of reach of any local financial authorities who might be looking for them. However, while offshore accounts can provide some level of privacy, they aren't foolproof, and in some cases, governments may track international transactions. Digital currencies like Bitcoin offer a way to transfer funds without the need for a bank. However, cryptocurrencies have their own set of challenges. While they can offer some degree of anonymity, transactions are still recorded on the blockchain and can sometimes be traced. Using privacy coins like Monero can add an extra layer of protection, but even these have vulnerabilities. For those who want to live completely off the grid, bartering, exchanging goods and services without money, can be an option, while not entirely sustainable. This approach can help someone maintain a life without leaving a financial trace. Is true financial independence achievable without being trapped by systems that control our money? If you choose to live off the grid, how do you ensure you have the resources to survive long-term? The physical aspect of disappearing is just as important as the digital and financial aspects. Where would you go, and how would you live without drawing attention? For some, the best way to disappear is to blend into society as though nothing has changed. Moving to a different city or country where you are unlikely to be recognized or traced can be an effective method. This requires understanding the local culture, language, and social systems. You can work low-key jobs, avoid drawing attention to yourself, and live in a modest way that won't attract curiosity. For others, complete isolation is necessary. They might choose to live in remote areas far from the cities and towns where they might be recognized. This could mean living in rural areas, hidden behind thick forests, mountains, or even caves. While this offers ultimate privacy, it can be physically and emotionally draining. Choosing a lifestyle of homelessness or being undocumented can be an option for some who wish to vanish. Without a permanent address, without interaction with governmental systems, they remain off the radar. But this comes with a price. Personal safety, stability, and quality of life are often compromised. Staying hidden for the long term requires constant vigilance. People who choose this route have to regularly change their appearance, avoid any activities that could lead to identification, and maintain a low profile. If you choose to hide from society, how would you deal with the mental and emotional isolation that comes with it? Could you ever truly live without human connection? Or would you long for companionship? Disappearing is a complex and multifaceted process, requiring more than just physical relocation or changing names. It involves erasing one's digital presence, altering financial habits, and sometimes taking extreme measures to remain hidden. But the deeper question remains. If you chose to disappear, could you ever fully escape your past? And what would the consequences of such an escape truly be? Before considering vanishing, one must ask, is it worth the price? What are we really running from? And what will we be leaving behind? Disappearing isn't just about leaving. It's about what we choose not to confront, and whether that avoidance is ever truly sustainable. When we talk about disappearing, we aren't simply discussing leaving town or cutting off contact for a short period of time. We're considering the complete severing of ties from your old life, erasing your identity, vanishing from society, and living off the grid. This act raises several serious legal questions, primarily around identity theft, fraud, and abandonment. While disappearing might seem like an option for personal freedom, it also carries significant moral weight. Leaving behind loved ones, whether family, friends, or partners, can have devastating consequences that may last much longer than your absence. Escaping abuse or danger. In cases of domestic violence or life-threatening situations, disappearing can sometimes be a life-saving option. For individuals fleeing an abusive relationship, escaping might be the only way to guarantee safety. However, even in these cases, the ethical decision to disappear must be weighed against the impact on children, loved ones, and the legal ramifications of leaving. Personal struggles and responsibilities for someone who simply wishes to escape personal struggles, be it debt, relationships, or emotional pain. The moral question becomes more complex. Disappearing for these reasons can leave others in difficult situations. Should they be allowed to escape their problems? even if doing so causes significant harm to others? Is it ever truly justifiable to leave behind everyone you know? If the answer is yes, how far does it extend? Is it acceptable to leave your family behind simply to get a fresh start? Or do we have a moral obligation to face the consequences of our actions? It's important to consider the ethical responsibility we have toward those we leave behind. While it may feel empowering to escape from one's life, we must also recognize the potential harm caused by abandoning loved ones who might depend on us emotionally, financially, or otherwise. In the end, the most profound question is whether disappearing brings true freedom or whether it merely creates a new set of burdens. Disappearing may seem like the ultimate form of freedom. The idea of cutting ties, starting fresh, and leaving behind everything that once held you back can feel like an exhilarating escape. However, this freedom is often fleeting. Without the right support systems, the guilt, loneliness, and constant fear of being caught may follow you wherever you go. The emotional toll of leaving behind everything you once knew can overshadow the sense of liberation that initially motivated you to disappear. True freedom, in a moral sense, comes from facing and confronting our problems head-on, not running away from them. It's about growth, resilience, and the ability to live authentically without the need to escape or hide. When you choose to disappear, you're not just walking away from your problems, you're abandoning the chance to truly heal, learn, and grow. Is disappearing really freedom, or does it come at a cost too heavy to bear? Is it worth it to trade one set of problems for a lifetime of isolation, guilt, and fear? Or is the real freedom found in confronting life's challenges and building the strength to face them? Disappearing might seem like an enticing option when facing overwhelming circumstances. But as we've seen, the legal and moral implications are significant and complex. Whether it's navigating the criminal justice system, dealing with the emotional fallout on loved ones, or wrestling with the ethical ramifications of abandoning your responsibilities, the act of disappearing is never as simple as it might seem. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Would you ever consider disappearing? Or do you believe facing your challenges head-on is the path to true freedom? In today's digital age, almost every action we take, whether it's a simple Google search or posting on social media, leaves a trace. With this constant trail of data, the ability to disappear becomes much harder. Internet activity is often tracked by a variety of companies and organizations, and our digital footprints follow us across devices. From emails to online purchases, these actions create patterns that can be analyzed to track a person's movements or behavior. Social media has transformed how people interact with one another, but it's also made it nearly impossible to remain anonymous. People post updates about their lives, and even if a person deletes their social media accounts, the data and history remain stored on servers. In addition, friends, family, and acquaintances can inadvertently help track someone to their own posts, photos, and updates. Now that we've covered the basic factors that make disappearing a near impossibility, let's delve into specific technologies that track our every move. This technology has evolved rapidly and is now used in many public spaces, from airports and shopping malls to social media platforms. Facial recognition software can instantly identify individuals by comparing their facial features against vast databases of known faces. Even if you change your appearance slightly, it's still a challenge to truly hide, as many security systems can pick up on subtle features, such as eye distance or facial structure. Moreover, this technology is not limited to just government authorities. Private companies, stores, and even your smartphone could be using this technology to track you. From the moment we step out of our homes, our mobile phones and other devices are constantly broadcasting location information. Whether it's through your smartphone's GPS, apps that ask for your location, or even the chip in your car, there are countless ways your movements are tracked. Even when you think you've turned off location services, there are still other tracking methods, such as Wi-Fi positioning and cell tower triangulation, that can be used to track where you are. Smart devices in our homes, such as voice assistants, Amazon Alexa, Google Home, smart thermostats, and even wearable fitness trackers, are also gathering information about us. These devices can collect a wealth of data about your habits, routines, and location. While these may seem benign, they provide another layer of tracking that makes disappearing even more difficult. While not as widely used today, biometrics, such as fingerprints, voice prints, and even DNA, are increasingly becoming standard in identification systems. Government databases store biometric data, which should be used to identify people even if they change their name, face, or location. As DNA testing becomes more accessible, the potential for genetic identification becomes another obstacle for those wishing to remain unseen. Given these advancements in technology, the question arises, can anyone truly disappear, or is it just an illusion we hold on to? In reality, the odds are stacked against us. Disappearing forever is not as simple as picking up and leaving. It requires cutting every connection, severing ties to your past, and carefully navigating a world that's designed to track you. The convenience of technology that many of us rely on every day has also become a tool for monitoring, and once a person is on a radar, it's incredibly difficult to erase the traces left behind. However, the idea of disappearing is not completely out of reach. There are extreme cases of people who have managed to vanish by creating entirely new identities, going into hiding in remote areas, and avoiding modern technologies. But even then, the risk of being discovered remains high. More often than not, such individuals live under constant fear of being found, and the toll on their mental health and emotional well-being is significant. In today's world, can anyone truly disappear, or is it just an illusion we hold on to? The idea of disappearing is deeply tied to our desire for control and freedom. It reflects a longing for anonymity in a world that feels increasingly intrusive. But as technology continues to advance, the very concept of anonymity is eroding. So, while we may feel the allure of vanishing, of shedding the weight of our lives, can we ever truly escape the digital and physical footprints we leave behind? Or is the reality that we can never truly disappear from the world around us, but rather we learn how to change and reinvent ourselves within it? The answer, perhaps, lies not in disappearing entirely, but in how we navigate and redefine our relationship with the world around us. Maybe, rather than vanishing, we should focus on how we can control our presence in this world, how we can reduce our digital footprint, protect our privacy, and regain control over our lives without the need to run away completely. In the end, disappearing forever may be more of a philosophical pursuit or reflection of our desire to reclaim control rather than a realistic goal. Disappearing sounds like an escape, an opportunity to wipe the slate clean and start fresh. But in reality, the cost of vanishing goes far beyond the physical and logistical efforts it requires. It can lead to serious emotional, mental, and social consequences that are often overlooked in the heat of the moment. Let's break down what it truly costs to disappear and whether it's worth it. When you disappear, the first thing you lose is connection. Whether it's with your family, your friends, or the community you spent years becoming a part of, the emotional cost is steep. Relationships are one of the most precious parts of life, and walking away from them, whether willingly or out of necessity, can leave scars that never fully heal. The act of disappearing is not just a physical departure. It's a deeply emotional and psychological decision. You are actively severing ties with everything that once gave you a sense of belonging. The emotional void that follows can be overwhelming. Imagine being cut off from your family, your support system, your memories, and even your identity. Even if you experience pain or hardship in those relationships, there's still an emotional anchor that keeps you tethered. Cutting that rope, however, doesn't free you. It creates an abyss where doubt, loneliness, and regret can grow. Instead of disappearing, could the concept of reinvention be a healthier alternative? Reinvention is about embracing change and transformation while still holding on to things that make you who you are. It's not about running away from your past, but about using it to fuel a new chapter in your life. Here's why reinvention might be a better path to take. It doesn't erase your past, it builds upon it. It's about using your experiences, your mistakes, and your lessons to create a new version of yourself. This process allows you to redefine your values, goals, and identity. Reinventing yourself doesn't mean abandoning who you are, but evolving into the person you aspire to be. Through reinvention, you find a sense of empowerment that disappearing simply can't provide. Unlike disappearing, reinvention allows you to start fresh without severing all ties. You can leave behind the negative aspects of your life, be it toxic relationships, old habits, or unfulfilled dreams, while still keeping the valuable connections and experiences that have shaped you. It's a process that allows for growth without the overwhelming loss that comes with disappearing. Reinvention enables you to transform your life from within, without needing to escape. Reinvention is rooted in choice. You choose to take control of your life and steer it in a new direction, whether that means changing careers, altering your lifestyle, or pursuing a new passion. Reinvention is a conscious decision to move forward. It's an act of courage to embrace change rather than run from it. This freedom of choice is far more fulfilling than the temporary relief that comes from disappearing, which often leaves you trapped in a cycle of fear and uncertainty. At the end of the day, disappearing might seem like a quick fix, a way to escape the troubles, mistakes, or burdens that are holding you back. It can feel like a clean slate, a fresh start that promises freedom and relief. But the truth is, disappearing rarely solves the deeper issues. It just hides them away. Sometimes, the real freedom comes from facing our past, acknowledging the pain, and using it as a foundation for building a better future. You can't truly escape your past. It will always follow you. But by confronting it, learning from it, and growing stronger through it, you create a future that's entirely your own. Disappearing isn't the only option. Life offers you the power to reinvent yourself, to transform your world and your mindset without losing everything. Reinvention allows you to step into a new version of yourself while still honoring who you are, where you've been, and what you've learned. This path may not be easy, but it's the one that leads to true fulfillment and lasting change. So, rather than vanish, ask yourself, how can I reinvent myself? What lessons from my past can I carry forward? What kind of future do I want to build? Remember, the real power lies not in running away, but in standing tall and embracing your journey past, present, and future. If you were to reinvent yourself today, what would that look like? What would you leave behind? And what would you carry forward? How can you use your past to fuel a more fulfilling future? Do you believe that disappearing could offer true freedom? Or does it just lead to a different kind of prison? What do you think is the best path to finding peace with yourself? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this topic. Have you ever thought about disappearing? Or do you believe that running away is never the answer? Let me know in the comments below. Let's talk about it.